that Baylor football recruiting is heating up, but why the Bears aren't where they want to be just yet.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Woo-wee, do we have a show for you today on Locked On Baylor? Welcome to another episode brought to you by Monarch Money. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas. Joining me as always on Wicker Wednesday, the namesake, Sydney Wicker of KCEN Channel 6. We are breaking down Baylor football recruiting. It's heating up. But how much farther are they trying to go? How much better are they trying to make this thing? They got some help on Tuesday afternoon. We'll also talk about VJ Edgecombe about to become the highest drafted Baylor Bears player in the history of the NBA draft. What Jay Billis says is the legacy for VJ Edgecombe at Baylor. Plus, the ladies, well, they're taking the world by storm. Paris, other places, what this means for Baylor women's basketball, for women's basketball as a whole, all that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. It's that time of year, Sydney. I mean, we're looking for Joe Tipton edits, Photoshops, the guys wearing the jerseys on the official visits. Baylor's just gone through their official visit season. And we're still waiting, by the way. We're still waiting on a lot of commitments here. I told you sometime last week, that it's going to be the next couple of weeks. Don't expect them to all commit right after the final visit. But Sydney, this is an important summer from all that we saw last year for this program on the recruiting trail last summer and obviously on the football field in the fall. This does feel like a pretty important summer to keep that momentum going.
Absolutely it is. You have to build off this foundation. And we know Baylor's probably going to lose a good amount of leadership come at the end of the season. So you got to start somewhere. You got to start thinking about those guys. It never stops. I think that's the hardest thing about being in a head coaching position is that while you got to focus on the right now, you also have to think about the future and all that's to come. So getting so many good guys right now kind of helps put the stress and worries away so you can focus on the season. You already got those guys ready to come.
Yeah, and we say it's not exactly where the recruiting class wants to be yet, but we've highlighted some of the big ones, some of the local guys. We talked about Jamarion Vincent from Conley. We talked about that, you and I, on an episode. And he is one of the best recruits they've ever gotten. If you go by the metrics, he's a top 15 Baylor recruit of all time. London Smith from University right down the road, not too far behind him. And they continue to add. The big one today, that doesn't look as good as when it looks like this. How about that? Jordan Deck, the safety from Frisco Lone Star, is joining up, commits to Baylor right before we recorded this, basically, on Tuesday afternoon to peel back the curtain a little bit. Jordan Deck, 4-star. This opens up a lot of things in terms of some of his teammates that might potentially be interested in Baylor. But Sydney, just your initial reaction to see not only a 4-star, but a guy on the defensive side of the ball. And what you just talked about, a position of need that's going to be a position of need again next year at safety. And not saying the kid's going to just slot right in there at 18 years old, but that is certainly a help for that position group and for this defense in the future.
Well, what stood out to me the most is look at that freaking smile. That kid is excited. And I love it. I feel like that's just contagious. You can see everything about him. He looks like such a fun guy. I watched a couple of his clips on Twitter and I was like, this guy's special and he's something else. And to make this commitment over places like Michigan, Ole Miss, like really big schools to stay closer to home, but even to come to Waco from being in the Frisco area, I think says a lot. So I'm excited about this kid. I think he's a huge addition to this class, and I like his energy. I think you can just see it on this photo alone. I know they make these guys look good, but there was just something special about this one to me. I was like, this guy's happy to be here, and I love it.
And I got to say, I'm really impressed by your professionalism there. Jordan Deck, of course, committing to Baylor over your Michigan Wolverines. That's
Thank you. I really took my bias out of it.
Yeah. And like, for real, that is still something that I talk about on these recruiting shows of like, look, Baylor is in, all told the last decade or so, as good a position as they've ever been in football, but to take recruits over UT or A&M and then schools like Michigan or Penn State, that's still a huge deal. It still is. Colorado, Michigan, Penn State, UCLA were just 4 of his 39 offers at the Division I level. So that's pretty good. There's only 70 or so Power 4 teams. 6'3", 190, 12 PBUs during his junior season for a guy who they're not throwing to quite a lot. Defensive Newcomer of the Year in 6'5", so pretty big-time high school football up in the Metroplex area. Also had 5 picks as well. That was as a sophomore, the Defensive Newcomer of the Year in the 5 picks. So big-time player. And this is also something that a couple of recruiting analysts have noted, by the way, that they're really looking for another Lone Star player, and that is Davion Gross, I think is how you say it, Groce. This is a kid, real quick. I mean, absolute stud. Plays running back and receiver up there at Lone Star, which has been a program very much on the rise the last couple of years, still a fairly new school. He got over 1,300 yards last year from scrimmage and about evenly split from running back and receiver, about 700 to 600 in respectively. And Gabe Brooks says he can play both positions at the Power 4 level. So that is something to look out for. But Sydney, before we get out of talking about recruiting, because we'll get on the Davion Gross thing at some point here. But before we get there, just for this class so far, this puts Baylor in the top 50 in America, this commitment today or yesterday. So look, it's not like they're shattering records or anything, but I think we've taken quite a few positives from this recruiting class. Is there anybody or anything that stands out to you about this class of 2026 so far?
Yeah, I think what stands out to me is you scroll down the list and it's Texas, Central Texas, more Texas. Like, it's so key. And I think we talked about how important it is for Baylor to capitalize on those star athletes in this area, but how we also need to see that dominance in the DFW area or even in the Austin area. And I feel like every time we bring that up, we get another commitment from somewhere that we mention. So I think it's really starting to put those words into action and finding those ways to land those guys. I think something else that's key about this commitment, you're talking about a guy who can play really well on defense. We keep talking about the needs on defense, and we're seeing big commitments from good defensive guys. You're finding really good ways to fill the gaps. And I'm like, what does that say about Dave Aranda? Clearly he's saying something, right? Because if I think about good defensive schools, I'm thinking of the Big Ten. And to choose Baylor over those, that's huge. So I like what I'm seeing from this class, but I'm really liking seeing where they're all coming from and how they're capitalizing on that too.
Yeah, and specifically that Central Texas, which we've talked about a few times. Davion Peters, a guy we haven't really gone over on this show yet from Lake Belton. That's a kid who kind of, when Lake Belton needs it, right, they have Micah Hudson, who was a 5-star best receiver in America 2 seasons ago, or not this past season, but the year before. Stepping out of that shadow, Davion Peters comes in, has an absolutely massive year for Lake Belton. He's another one. It's these Davions. I don't know where it's coming from, Sydney. 2 Davions who are both running backs and receivers. He also went for over 1,200 yards, 700 through the air, 6 receiving touchdowns. So firepower, both sides of the ball, all Texas, man. It's coming up all Texas. It's coming up all Baylor. And speaking of coming up, okay, VJ Edgecombe is coming up in the NBA draft, might be the highest selected Bear of all time. We've got all sorts of things that are coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, a word from our newest sponsor on the Locked On Podcast Network, Rugiet. Okay, guys. You've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. And the effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. So head to Rugiet.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, locked on COLLEGE, to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege. Use that promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Well, it's the big night. Sydney Wicker comes on Wicker Wednesday. We do have the first round of the NBA draft on this Wednesday night, and it, of course, is going to have some Baylor flavor once again. It's becoming an annual tradition, man. Trust me, that wasn't always the case, not even all that long ago. But now all kinds of Baylor flavor every year. And this year, of course, Sydney, is VJ Edgecombe. I mean, how exciting a night is this? You're probably going to hear, almost certainly going to hear his name called in the top 5.
Oh, it's so awesome. It's kind of cool too, just covering him all season long. Like I always say when I cover like my high school kids, like you just like form such a relationship with them, following them and their playoff runs, and then they go win a state championship and you're like so happy for them. And covering a guy like VJ this season was so special. Every time he did a cool dunk or had just a sick 3, you were like, this kid is special. And my favorite thing to do after watching him just shoot any kind of shot was immediately pan to the crowd and see what kind of reaction they had. Because it was always like, yeah, or like, oh my God, how did he do that? He has been such a special talent to watch all year, and to watch his dreams come true tonight. Oh, it's so special. You love it for him.
Dude, I had one of those moments this weekend. Chase Shores, who got the final out for LSU in the College World Series. I did a little feature on him when he was in high school, when I was out in the Midland, Odessa area. So I was like, that's
so cool.
My guy, 2-time national champion now. I told you guys about him, just the general YouTube public. But it's not just us bragging about VJ Edgecombe. Of course, we saw him play basically every game. But the people that really analyze this kind of stuff, they really like VJ Edgecombe as well. Jay Billis with a heck of a comparison.
But athletically, he may be the best overall athlete in this draft. From speed, agility, vertical leap, he's a high flyer. And, I think he compares favorably to me. And I want to be careful with this because people think I'm talking about them as pros, but I'm talking about them as 19-year-olds. He compares favorably to me to a 19-year-old Victor Oladipo or a 19-year-old Dwayne Wade.
Whoa. I've heard of those guys.
Me too. Big praise.
Pretty big. Do you remember 19-year-old Dwayne Wade? Remember how cool that was?
I can't say I remember it off the top of my head, but I like the comparison, and the compliment sounds great.
Yeah, I hope it turns out the same. Dwayne Wade did play 2 more years of college. Victor Oladipo didn't, and VJ Edgecombe will not. But I'm hoping that is the kind of praise. And it does seem like it's that athleticism, right? That's just jumping off the page. Sydney, I want to turn a question to you that I got from Pete Souza on the Pete Souza show about VJ. Because I had a very, the one word popped to my head right away. So I want to do this Rorschach test kind of thing on you. Anybody who drafts VJ Edgecombe is getting blank.
Star.
It's a good way to put it.
A total star. I was going to say, if you give me 2 words, highlight reel.
Oh, well, yeah. I said human highlight reel. That's what I said.
Yeah.
I said SportsCenter top 10. That's what
every week. Yeah. You're going to get something amazing. Jaw dropping. You're going to get something fun. And he just brings it so naturally. I think that's almost the frustrating thing about watching him is he's just so easy when he plays. He's just so calm, cool, and collected. And I want to go shoot hoops after I watch VJ play. And I'm like, God, this is really hard. I can't make a 3 to save my life. Granted, I'm only 5'2", but he just makes it look so natural. And anybody who ends up with him, they're having a difference maker on their team.
And when it comes to the NBA draft too, it's like Baylor's obviously done very well. Like I've said, they've had guys in the top 10, and I'm not bashing this by any means, but just the way we see this or the way NBA fans see this, like unless you're picked in the top 3, people don't really remember, right? Those who turn out to be good, of course, those get remembered, but nobody remembers the bust who was picked number 7. Nobody remembers Ben McLemore. Okay. Nobody's going to Kansas because Ben McLemore went there. They're going there because, Joel Embiid went there and Wilt Chamberlain went there. So when you look at, Baylor and their rise and having these guys who've been in the top 10, Davion Mitchell was in the top 10, Jeremy Sohan was in the top 10. That's great. But Sydney, to have someone who could go number 3 overall, like VJ Edgecombe, maybe number 4, and be the highest drafted Baylor Bear of all time. Epe Udoh is number 6 overall in 2010. Like that is a different level, right? Like that could once again, we said this a lot the last few years, that could once again bring even more eyeballs towards this program, even after a down year.
Absolutely. I mean, Scott Drew loves to remind us how many NBA draft picks that they have. And when you were talking about that in the beginning, I was like, okay, Scott Drew.
I was trying to think, what is it like? The only one with the top 22 pick in the last 6 years. Or Scott loves Scott, but Scott loves like cherry picking some stats. He loves that thing, man. So yeah, this is just another one to add to the arsenal a little bit.
Oh yeah. But like you said, so huge for Baylor. I don't think anybody has thought recently that Baylor isn't a top tier program in basketball recently just because of the success that they've had. And I mean, you won a national championship in 21, was it right? Like, wasn't that long ago. So that stays in people's mind, I think, for a while. But this is another good reminder, like Baylor produces great talent. This kid, VJ, could have gone somewhere, honestly, probably out of high school, maybe not this high, but like just knowing from the Bahamas when he came, he didn't have to come to Baylor, but he did. And the Scott Drew system is something he wanted to be a part of. And we saw that want from him. I always thought he had so much great poise because sometimes it was like when they were losing those games where you're questionable, he was always the most frustrated. And he took that personally. This kid wants to win, and he showed that. And so I think he speaks volumes about what the Baylor program is, and I think that can trickle down and carry really far for the future of this program as well.
And by the way, he picked Baylor over 2 programs where you can list like 10 NBA All-Stars each from those schools. He picked them over Duke and Kentucky. So last thing on VJ, because I found it very fascinating to watch him throughout this last year, because I think a lot of people saw it and thought, this kid's not top 5 material. He wasn't putting up 25 a game. He was a freshman playing in the Big 12, but he did a lot of different things at different times of the year. Was there anything that stood out to you in covering these games that you're like, man, VJ's really grown in this, or I could see VJ doing this in the NBA? Was there anything like that when you were watching?
I think a game that I always think back on is his 30-point performance that he had. Like, that was just like such a huge one and at such a critical time too. So I think when answers need to be made, he finds a way to answer. And I think that's just something I won't forget about watching him, is that he loves this game. And it loves him back a lot of times too. But wow. I think there's something so special about him and the way that he's able to take matters into his own hands, especially when his back's against the wall or he needs to carry his team a little bit. And he's so young. To have that kind of leadership is huge.
He's going to have one hell of a highlight tape after year 1 with those regular season defenses, man. Oh, that is going to be something. The kid's going to have some space. I don't know what his shooting percentage is going to be, but he's going to have some space. And I'm interested to see. I think he can be a really elite defender at the NBA level. That's what I'm looking forward to about VJ Edgecombe. But we'll see where he goes. Top 5, probably, which means he will become the highest draft pick in Baylor basketball history. VJ Edgecombe, just out here making history. That's what he does.
Gotta love it.
Speaking of history, okay, the team formerly known as the Baylor Lady Bears is going to make some history to start the 2025 season in la grande fashion. I don't think that's how you say it. We'll go over it next on Locked On Baylor. But first, I got a question for you guys. You ever check that bank account and see, wait, where did all my money go? I know that. Monarch Money, it can be easier than ever before to manage your cash. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, which gives you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building wealth. If you share finances with someone, Monarch Money helps you stay on the same page. That's something that I know has gotten, pretty prevalent in my life. I was surprised how easy it is to just track everything in one place. All these things these days, you're going to 5 or 6 different apps, not Monarch Money. Okay. So take control of it. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDON, COLLEGE, all one word, for half off your first year. Bringing it back, Locked On Baylor, Cam Stewart, Sydney Wicker joining on a Wicker Wednesday. It's always cool, Sydney, to see, these kind of early season tournaments where the teams are going to go. It doesn't mean as much for us as fans because we're not going, but, the battle for Atlantis or Maui or these cool places that both the men's and women's team get to go. I think this is taking it to a new level because Baylor, Nikki Collins' Baylor Bears, are going to open the season against Duke, an Elite Eight team from last year, in Paris, France, not Paris, Texas. This happened a couple days ago, and we haven't had a chance to address it on the show yet. But I mean, that's just like really cool, right? That's just really cool.
Bonjour, I'm ready for my croissants. Let's go. Oh my gosh, I literally went into my boss's office and I was like, you have to send me to Paris. Come on.
I mean, come on.
It would be so rude not to.
I mean, you guys need the wall-to-wall coverage, so I don't think they're allowed to not send you.
That's what I'm saying. The only thing I hate is that it is still football season when this thing tips off.
True. It's true.
So I think it's going to be a hard arm to twist, but so cool for Baylor and this women's team. What a great bonding experience to kick off the season.
Yeah, I think that's a good point right at the end there. Is like, we've heard this before, whether it be like that Atlantis or Maui tournaments or when they go somewhere in the summer before. I know that happens, every couple of years. And I believe it was Nikki Collins who brought them out to Lake Como a few years ago. I could be wrong on that. It might have been the end of Kim Mulkey. But that could be huge for this team that does have some veteran pieces, that has some new folks in the mix, and one that came up short. Again, we talked about this a bunch, came up short just at the end of their expectations a couple of times. Do you think this could be the kind of bonding trip they need to win those crucial games later in the season?
Oh, totally. I think something that I really appreciated about Nikki Collins' team last year is that the closeness never seemed to be a problem. So do they need it? Probably not. She finds a way to bring her group together, and I think it translates well on the court, but I think having it never hurts. And so to be able to get this group together for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I'm sure so many of these women have never been to Paris. Some of them might have not even been out of the country yet. Yeah. So this is such a great opportunity for them. And just what a game, like you said, to start it off against Duke, a team who made a good run last season and who turned a lot of heads, and to start with that kind of competition right off the bat is huge.
Now here's my next thing, by the way.
Do we have to speak in French?
Do you know any French?
Oui, oui.
Is that it? Is that about it?
That's it. Yeah.
I did get my experts on it during the commercial break. En grande pompe is how you say in grand fashion. And I thought I was pretty close.
It sounded good. You had the good the gurgle of the throat was impeccable.
I know any kind of French and pronunciation solely from the fact that the Bruins' biggest rival, the Montreal Canadiens. So I do know how to say some of those names. I wouldn't say I know how to speak. I would like to speak French though. I don't know how useful it is, but it sounds cool.
It sounds really cool.
Like really, I should be learning Spanish. That's the second most spoken language in this country. Like I should know that for practicality reasons. But I think that would be really cool. But what would be even cooler, Sydney? Like, can they play this outside? Can they play this in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower like they did with, what was it, the volleyball courts last year?
Yeah,
in the
that
Olympics?
Would be so sick.
I mean, like, why not?
Try.
So what? It's going to be windy. Who cares? It's a non-conference game. All right. They made Carolina play Michigan State on a battleship a couple years ago. Like, come on, man. I think we should.
Everybody wants to see the Eiffel Tower. Like, come on.
Like, that's what
you
about.
Go to Paris for. Exactly.
Want to grow this game too? Like, that's why we're doing it, right? We're growing the game of women's basketball. Like, let people just pull up and watch. I think that would be a grand pompe, you know? I think that would be a très grand pompe. I'm just starting to sound like Jean Girard from Talladega Nights.
Everybody who's listening, they're like, okay.
They've completely tuned out. But anyway, that's something to look forward to. That's a hell of a way to start a season. Un grand pompe. I remember like looking up how to insult Carey Price, the Canadiens goalie. I technically can repeat it on this podcast because it literally translates to cat in French. But I think the innuendo is enough. So anyway, that's going to be a cool way to start the season. Guys, let me know what you think about it in the comments below about Baylor's recruiting class so far. What you think about VJ Edgecombe? I know we don't often do that where guys are going on to the pros, but I think this is a different circumstance where Baylor's going to have their highest draft pick ever, and it's someone that we're going to watch for years to come. So get involved in the comments section below. Be sure to like and subscribe. Find us on YouTube and wherever you find your podcast to see when we're going to go off the rails tomorrow. That's Sydney Wicker of KCN Channel 6. I'm Kim Stewart. Thanks for making it your first listen today and every day. And we will see you tomorrow on your favorite show, Locked On. There's the ending. Baylor.